Okay, hello, it's Paul Green here with another one of our regular focus on panels, whereby I bring three people that I believe know their shit, um, and pick their brains on a particular, so professional, isn't it? Pick
Yeah.
their brains on a particular topic that I think might be interesting to small businesses. So if you're tuning into this live or on a replay, then please do feel to put comments on whatever platform you're on, and we should be able to access it. Right, Kevin, thanks for coming. Please feel free. It's going to be one of those days. Please feel free to ask your questions or add your comments, and we'll bring it up on screen. What is he going? Go to the toilet.
No, I was checking my live stream had happened and all the other things, and I couldn't do it. It doesn't matter. Carry on.
Yeah, but you're on the live stream.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just. It doesn't matter. Carry on.
For God's sake, should we give up now while we're behind? So, the topic for this morning, or maybe this afternoon, wherever you're listening, whenever, is, as you can see, the ticker going along, is branding important for small business? So that's what we're going to find out, and that's what we're going to explore. So before we do that, if we just go around the room so people can introduce themselves and let us know who you are. Oh, Sneha's just joined in. Hi, Sneha. Kevin.
Yeah. Yes. Good morning.
I can ask an easier question. It's only going to get harder.
Okay.
Do we get a point for saying our name and who we are?
Okay. Yeah. Can I go now?
Yeah.
Because I was playing with the settings when you asked me. So there's a lot of buttons that need pressing down here.
Yeah, of course there are. Yeah.
There's a button there that says "Need help." I think it's going to show me a way out of this panel if I press it.
We can only hope.
Yeah, Kevin Robinson from Your Copywriter. We do pretty much what it says on the tin. We create copy and messaging, particularly assets such as blogs, web copy, articles, that sort of thing that help people's sales funnel by, funnily enough, enhancing branding. Andy's gone.
Did he press the need help button?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, this is going well for anybody who's tuned in so far, isn't it?
Just watch my branding sort of dissolve in front of me as we try to do these things. Are you done?
Well, I'm done. Yeah, I've forgotten what the question was at this stage. So
yeah, fabulous. Let's not worry about it at this time. ML,
well, I'm Marie Louise from Lovely Evolution, and I'm a branding and Canva design specialist. So I offer design done for you services like logo designs, Canva templates and such like. And I also teach non-designers like virtual assistants, in-house marketing peeps and social media experts and like those people who like to use Canva but don't use it very well, how to use it to create professional looking Canva designs. So that's me.
Hashtag Canva girl.
Yeah.
So we might as well kick off with the main question and see where that gets us. So Kevin, brace yourself.
Yeah, I'm just doing something to help out a little bit here. If I just put that up there, does that help anyway?
I can't see what's on there.
It says, "Hi, I'm Andy." So we'll leave it there.
Oh dear.
It's very, very, very realistic, Kevin.
Thank you very much. It took me all of 20 seconds to do. Yes. So, sorry, Paul, you were asking a question there.
Yes. So my third question is this focusing on the live stream panel important to you?
Not as important as drawing this. No. Okay. Go on. I'm paying attention. I'm with you. Go on.
Okay. So, Kevin, let me ask you the surprise question for this live stream that you probably know nothing about. Is branding important for a small business, Kevin?
Yes, it is. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, well,
is that your mic drop?
Yeah.
Yeah, just yeah.
So if Emma agrees with you, we'll just end the broadcast.
We could just end the whole broadcast there. Yeah, just pull a veil over the whole thing and just. Okay. Yes, it is. I'll tell you. Do you want more? You want more to that, presumably, rather than just yes.
I'd like this to last more than 5 minutes. You know.
Okay. Yes, it is, and it is, and it undoubtedly it is because it's. I have met small business owners in the past who say, "Oh, branding is not important to me because I do, something where branding doesn't matter." And at the same time, of course, being part of their brand as they're saying those words. So yes, it's important to your branding, because branding is the way the world sees you. You know, if you don't have brand, you can't be seen. It's as simple as that. And you know, so is it important? Yes, because it's a fundamental part of your business. It's like saying, is it important to issue an invoice now and again? You know, it's a fundamental. You can't get away from how important it is. Sensible answer. There you go.
You did very well. You can have a lie down for a minute. So ML branding's just having a nice logo, isn't it?
It's a bit more than that. As Kev said, you know, it's about how your business is showing up. So it's your branding is your logo, but it's also what colors you use in your marketing, fonts, the message and tone of voice that you either speak with or, you know, write a social media post, how your website is, the images that you use. There's all these different elements that layer up to create the brand. So it's much more than just the logo.
Thank God you said that. So what you touched on it, Kevin, that some businesses, small businesses you meet don't necessarily think that branding is important for them. What do you think gets in the way of, you know, small businesses considering a brand as such, rather than just, you know, getting the first available cheap website, whacking something on there, and, you know, just sort of making a logo on Canva or something?
I honestly think there is a basic, quite often a basic misunderstanding of what a brand is. And, you know, ML was right there when she started talking about it's the images you use. It's one of the things I do here is microcopy for people, and we go through somebody's website and we look at the tiny little bits of words that are written on buttons and things like that, and they're part of your brand as well. You can't be in business without having a brand of some sort, you know. And in actual fact, I think it's gradually getting to the stage where you can't be at all as a human being without having a brand of some sort, because we are all so available online. You know, we're all so available, we're all so easily found and all part of what we do. Look at what we're doing now, you know. My green screen that I normally have behind me with all my virtual stuff has fallen down because I can't be able to put it back up. But, you know, even there's still something else with my branding on it, including, I've just realized I forgot to take the Welcome to Twin Peaks sign down. But it isn't as simple as here's a color and a logo. And the reason I think that a lot of small businesses don't recognize the value of brand is for the same reason that they quite often don't recognize the value of having optimized text on their website, or they just don't think about it. You know, it's not that they're refusing to have a brand, it's that they're not recognizing how important that is, and therefore not doing anything about it. And you can't blame them. You cannot expect somebody who's a self-employed, I don't know, you know, plumber from Birmingham to know anything about branding. Why would they ever have done that? Why would they ever done it? You know, so we have to, I think we also need to be a little bit careful about as marketing people about going, oh, I can't believe people don't understand branding. Why should they? Why should they? You know, it's not been their world, it's not been their thing, so it's not important to them. And I think that's probably a lot of what it comes down to when people don't focus on their brand when they start a business or run a business.
Right, well, Andy's back. Let's hope the connection's a little bit better. Are you there, Andy? Probably not. It's a bit like holding a seance, isn't it? Is anybody there?
I think sort of following on from what Kevin was saying, I think the other side of it, the issue is, yes, there's the for small businesses understanding what is a brand and like why is it important, why would they need to have one. But I think the other side of it is budgeting and cash flow and the investment in it of understanding that they can have an affordable brand, or they can spend a lot of money on it, you know, or they can DIY it. As Paul said, you know, there's lots you can do in Canva. But the key thing is that I think particularly startups don't understand that they need to have a brand, and that we're all surrounded by brands, you know, big brands, little brands, and we don't fully understand how they're all communicating to us, because it just happens.
Yeah.
So when the coin is flipped and you're the business that's got to get your message out there, I think it's all too easy to either oversimplify it, think, oh, I'll just get a logo, and however that might be created, and not thinking of the bigger picture. And with Andy back on, hopefully he can weigh in on it, but that strategy behind what you're doing, what activities are you doing, where are you showing up, whether that's in person, online, and all of that.
But I think Amel made a good point. I don't think if Andy's with us or not, I hope he is. But you made a really good point there about budget and allocating budgets to startups in particular. Startups will frequently push branding to the back of the process of being a startup, or they will elevate it to a point where it's way beyond what they need initially, and people don't seem to get the balance right. So they'll go, oh, we don't need branding for another 6 months until we're up and established. You're not going to get up and established unless you have a brand that's going to take you out to the world, to take to your customers. Or they will say, they'll pay, like you said, the budget thousands and thousands for a brand that, frankly, without potential customers in the first place, you just bought a brand that nobody's seeing, So it's about balance, isn't it, I think, as well. And it's about, like you said, it's about a balance between your budget and whatever. But do not do it because of budget. Take budget from somewhere else. We have accountants because we know we need them. We buy software to run the business because we know we need it. Frankly, if your choice is between putting money into your brand development or getting a better lease car, do the brand development. Drive around in a Banger. Your brand will bring in business. Your Banger is only taking you to work and back. It's that important. It is an early focus, and I think you're dead right about that. Where it's made the mistake that is often made for startups.
Yeah, and I've seen your car, so I can tell you spent the money on branding.
I have a hell of a good branding.
So Russell's made an interesting point. Always remember that DIY can stand for destroy it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen plenty of horror stories, or examples of bad logos, and even in the realm of people or businesses, big businesses that have spent millions and millions of pounds on a rebrand for a very small amount, or just something that just sort of backfires, really. So it's interesting.
Tropicana did it recently, didn't they? They changed their orange juice carton, the brand they'd had for years. They changed it and nobody recognized it.
Oh, really?
Sales plummeted because they changed the brand. I seem to remember reading that somewhere, because it used to have a big orange on the front, didn't it? And the picture was really recognizable, and they changed it to a kind of abstract orange shape, and sales plummeted because nobody knew it was Tropicana.
Well, that you've hit the nail on the head with that, really, because that your branding and the purpose of it is recognition, it's familiarity, it's it's all of that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that there's a game. I haven't actually played it myself, but there's a board game which has got snippets of big name logos.
Yeah.
And because we've been conditioned to see these, the Cadbury's purple color and all of these things. But the thing is as a small business, you can have some semblance of it. You might not have the reach that Apple or McDonald's has, but within your network and circle of influence, you can build up that brand recognition, and so that when your social media post pops up on someone's feed, if they know, like, and trust you and see that you put good content out there, they're much more likely to stop and read what you've got to say, because there's been some visual cues like your logo or icon, your colors, to then make you stop in your tracks to go, oh, I'm going to read that content.
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally right on that. I mean, and it's all about the context, isn't it? And if nobody outside my circle of customers and the people who know us at the business community and all that sort of stuff know anything about my brand, that doesn't matter. I don't care. What's important is that the people who know the services and the products that we offer, that we can help, know my brand, isn't it? And so I think part of what Emel's saying there is part of it is not only the brand, you've got to remember that the brand is a bridge to your target audience in many ways, and you've got to define who that audience is. And if you're creating a brand from new or rebranding, make sure that you still talk to that audience, or that you talk to it in the first place with your brand.
Absolutely.
So we talked about budget. You know, it can be an expensive process to brand or rebrand, as I've gone through historically. What are some of the easiest things that people can do to start to establish a brand without having to spend thousands of pounds on doing that, would you say?
I would say the biggest thing is being consistent. It's something that I bang on about a lot in my training, and because even if you've got a mediocre or a bit of a rubbish brand, at least if you're being consistent with how you use, again, the colours, fonts in your logo, even if it's not the best one in the world, it means that if someone goes to your LinkedIn or goes to your website, if there's that consistency across there, if there's some core messages that are being kind of repeated, then there'll be that assurance that you know what you're doing, you know. And I think people can forgive a mediocre brand. I mean, obviously, a good brand is going to be better, but I would say a consistent use of logo and all of that across the different channels can go a long way to at least sort of improving that brand recognition.
Mm.
And there is a thing as well that I think we probably do that certainly I know Emil does this as well, and Mark's, and I'm sure I know Mark does this as well, is that when we look at somebody's brand, or when we're talking about adding something to somebody's brand, we all have a process in the marketing world where we go, okay, who is this? What do they say? Who's their customer? What does this mean? What does that mean? What are we talking? What we're saying? And I think that one of the things that somebody can do with their brand, if they don't have one, or they're wondering about whether their brand works or not, is to just ask a simple question. Just look at it and go, is that me? Is that my business? Does that say what I want it to say to the world?
And you can take it one step further and asking those people around you, getting a bit of market research, as it were. But if you want that honest feedback, then make it clear that you want constructive feedback, because you don't want just sort of vanity comments of people not wanting to hurt your feelings. If you recognize in yourself that it's not quite there, or it's if you're going to a networking meeting and people are confused about what you do, when you hand them your business card, or having been connected on LinkedIn for a while, then something's not right. Again, it's that cohesion and consistency. A big bugbear of mine is if I mean, I know that it's difficult at times to sort of keep everything updated, but it annoys me a little bit when you go onto a website and then you go onto their LinkedIn and they say different things because their business has moved on. And I get it, because my business has gone through various twists and turns and changed, but it's just making sure that that's updated, because I think you can lose business if people are like, oh, I'm going to connect with you, but if you don't like LinkedIn and you haven't touched your LinkedIn profile for 3 years, it's going to be out of date, and people who you've met are going to be confused, like, well, what do you actually do? Are you actually a professional business person?
Yeah.
Don't get annoyed, Emil. No one likes you when you're angry.
And of course, we're the worst for that, aren't we? People in marketing are the worst for doing it themselves and doing their own marketing. They always we're inveterate tweakers of our own marketing, so it's never coherent. I'm terrible at it. My marketing suffers from every mistake that I would really have a go at customers about making. But it's just it's just the way it is, isn't it?
I think if I look back to my rebranding exercise, I was speaking to someone about this the other day. What's interesting is, because Kevin, you were involved in that journey, and we spent quite a lot of time, I guess, talking about the story, talking about how to reposition my brand to what it is today, and we spent quite a lot of time on that, looking at values, etc., before we even got to the point where we invited a graphic designer in to come and actually look at representing that in a logo with what sort of font, what colors should we be, etc. So it's interesting, that's the first time I've properly gone through that exercise, to do a bit of research and sort of look at what the competitors were doing and really sort of think about how I could be distinct. And yes, so I guess not many people do that. They'll dive in, back to my facetious comment, they'll just dive in with a logo first, hope for the best, and then they don't have that consistency that also annoys ML.
Well, the irony is that that sort of side of things is covered a little bit in a business plan. Some business plans or templates, you're looking at who are your competitors. What's your unique selling point. So some of these questions that you need to know in terms of understanding who you are, who your business is. But as well as that, it's understanding, well, who do you want to work with? And doing that foundational work is really key, and also reviewing that over time as well to make sure that your branding and how you put yourself out there is still relevant. Because as we talked about earlier, your logo is just one part of it. I've worked with various businesses over the years, and as I said, you can have quite maybe a mediocre logo, but it's sitting in the context of really good graphic design and a clear marketing strategy. So, you kind of forgive the logo a little bit because there's all these other parts of that.
Yeah, and we have to put that in context as well. I think I'm just trying to see where I looked up earlier what the definition was of branding. And it came back with the definition, and I thought that's just really out of date. It said something like it's the way a company, says something like it's a choice of graphics and identification of a company often used for advertising. And I thought, well, that's what it used to be, isn't it?
I guess that's in very basic terms, but it's so much more than that. You can get really into the woo side of it, and it's the heart and soul of your business. Paul, you said about the values, and being really clear what your business values are, so that again that the content you're putting out there is attracting like-minded individuals or those clients of maybe similar values or of a certain type of values, so that you can connect each other up and work together.
Well, that's what when people say, I'll just find that page again and see what the description was. But when people talk about what marketing is, and branding of course is at the heart of everybody's marketing as well, is they talk about marketing and say, well, it's a bridge. It's a bridge between the products or services you offer and the customers that require those products or services. And the marketing is the stepping stones on that bridge, isn't it? It's the way that they recognize who you are and the way that they come to you. So to have it wrong, to not have it, or to not have it integrated at the very heart of what you're doing. And you're right, I don't think it's woo at all. I think it makes absolute common sense that if you have brand values and you have business values and you have a product to take out to a marketplace, whatever that product is, the branding should represent all of those things, and it should be the bridge to the customer. And if it's not doing that, okay, a little bit here and there, like you said, ML, it doesn't matter if your logo's got a bit old over time, but to simply look at it now with the way that the world communicates to, and the customers communicate with your business, to look at it and go, it's just about logos and advertising, is to be still sitting in 1991, isn't it, really? It's not that simple anymore. It's just not. And the importance of branding has elevated over the last 20 years, I think. ML doesn't. ML's not old enough to remember that.
I am. And I think also what you said about personal branding as well, that we have our businesses and the branding within that, but then as a personal brand, you wouldn't necessarily have a logo for you as an individual, unless you're sort of like an influencer, or maybe a coach might do. There are instances even when that is the case, but it's that thing of like how you're showing up, in a meeting, what you're putting on an email. It is so much more, and it's having that awareness and implementing it to the best of your ability where you're at in your business. And I think that's where, when I talk with startups, whether it's giving advice or training and all of that, that there is a certain level of forgiving where they're at because of their knowledge of the how important a brand is, but also the budget. And there's so many different things that they are learning about and doing. I think when you hit the kind of 2-year mark, that is where you need to be really serious about understanding, all of those things. If you haven't done your homework and done your business plan and figured all of that out, that's a really good time in your business lifespan to sort of reflect on who have you worked with, who didn't you enjoy working with. Because I think when we start out with our business, we think we're going to do something, and then often it goes in a completely different direction. Yeah. So like Kevin said, if you have, if you think, right, I'm going to do this properly, you're going to spend a couple of grand on this branding exercise, I want it to look proper. You could spend all of this money, which may or may not seem like a lot of money to you, and then only for the business to fail, or the business to go in that other direction, and then you're either faced with closing down your business because it's not been a success, and it's not necessarily, the branding can only do so much. It's one piece in that puzzle of activities, and it's what whether you do a rebrand then. So I think it's having a proportionate amount of investment, and seeing your branding as a living thing almost, that it will change, it will evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was just going to come on to. I think one of the things that has changed with branding since I started doing it too long ago now, and since you started it in the 1800s, Paul, the one of the fundamental changes, one of the bottom line changes that has happened with branding is about every 3 or 4 years used to go time to do a rebrand, almost like it was clockwork, and like an alarm went off somewhere, like the rebranding switch went off somewhere and you had to do a rebrand. But now I think we've reached a stage where we are almost constantly rebranding everything we do wherever we go, because like I said, we're so visible. So you are carrying your branding with you personally, your business is carrying it, everything you post on social media is carrying it, all the stuff on your website, everything you send to a customer, and there's so many facets to that branding these days for a lot of us that I think you're totally right, Mel. I think we need to stop looking at it in some respects as a fixed asset. I don't think it is. I think it's a constantly changing, constantly evolving, lovely evolutionary evolving asset.
I see what you did there, Kev. I'll just bring Mark Costa up. So Mark works in a similar domain to you, Emma, as you know. He says he likes the definition from some bloke called Jeff Bezos. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. My brand's knackered then, isn't it?
But it's interesting. Mark says that, but if I look at this dictionary definition that I've got here, it says the promotion of a particular product or company by means of advertising and distinctive design.
Yeah,
there's nothing about communication of no words like Mark put that stuff. And Bezos talking about he's talking about he's talking about you not being in the room. He talks about it almost as if it's a living thing, but the dictionary definition says advertising.
You've both used living thing now. I wish I'd queued up ELO to sort of like come on at the point you said living thing.
Yeah.
And thanks for the support, Mark. You've got that. Cool. Superb. Thanks and he did the bloody graphics. Anyway, so let's have a little chat about your brands, if I may. So ML, you zhuzhed up your brand rather than rebranded. Would that be right? And what had you do that at the time you did it?
Yeah, so my branding has gone through a few iterations, some kind of bigger jumps than others, and it's tied in with where I was at and where I was going with my business. So when I first set up Lovely Evolution, it was actually called Lovely Designs, and that was around 2008, 2009. And I was doing wedding stationery on the side, sort of alongside my design day job. And then in January 2016, when I decided to go full time with working for myself, I knew that I wanted to step away from the wedding niche. I was sort of a bit over it. But I'd ummed and ahed, do I keep Lovely Designs? Is it too sort of twee? And ultimately I decided to stick with it and created a sort of a bit more of a logo that I felt that, you know, was more me and what I was doing then, and would hopefully appeal to a broader range of clients rather than the kind of more pretty swirly thing that was aimed at the wedding market. And then in 2019, that was when I relaunched as Lovely Evolution, because I'd sort of realised that I enjoyed that challenge of working with clients that had an existing brand and wanted to rebrand. And I think understanding what the what stays and what goes, and I felt that it would be good to practice what I preach. So again, and do I keep the word lovely in it? You know, I tried all sorts. There was evolution design, there was all sorts of things, and I actually created the logo and then sat on it for 6 months like an egg until I felt like it was the right thing, that it sat right, because I think when you're doing stuff for yourself, whether it's writing your own copy or creating something, it's so close to you. And so it did take me a little while to kind of feel like, right, the time's right. Yes, this is what I'm doing with it. So yeah, so I feel like I'm doing this whole branding lark for my own business pretty well. I do try and practice what I preach in that regard, in terms of what I'm putting out there on social media, how my website looks. When we're on Zoom, I've got a very snazzy background. I'm quite disappointed I haven't got it up. I miss it. I don't have a little logo thing behind me. But I have had so many people that, again, it's my circle of influence who recognize my brand colors. They see that, I make a point a lot of the times to wear my brand colors, so I've got the kind of the teal and aquas, navy. And I've done that very consciously. I've really thought about that. I'm at the point where this year is about really reviewing my ideal client and really getting my marketing up to scratch, because branding is one thing, as I said, marketing is another, and that comes down to strategy. So I don't foresee me changing my logo or my colors, but I do foresee having a lot more clarity in the wording that I use, the message that I'm putting out there, and the consistency of all of that, like to a next level.
Okay, before I get to you, Kev, Russell's just put a question in the comments. If you're rebranding, is it better to go for a gradual change over time or just one big bang?
Yes.
I think it depends. It depends. I think the more cautious route and strategic route is probably to do it in increments. If you look at sort of some of the big names, like Coca-Cola and Starbucks and things like that, they have gone on an evolution. Whereas if you then look at Pepsi, they've done all sorts of weird shit, where they've gone off here and there. And I think that says a lot more about their insecurity competing with Coke, and also not having Coca-Cola and not understanding their own brand values themselves. And I guess with this example of Tropicana, I've not seen that yet, but I will go and Google it after.
Well, I hope I'm right about that. And I think it was Tropicana, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a classic case of where it can backfire. I know that MasterCard has rebranded and gone a more simplified route, but it works because they've evolved it with a point where it's one step away or a couple of steps away. There's still the recognizable overlapping circles. Whereas maybe Tropicana, if they'd done what you said, of just like there's an orange circle and it looks so different, you know, it's a bit of a change. Whereas then I shared an article early this year about Twitter supposedly rebranding, but actually what they'd done was their logo was pretty much hadn't changed as far as I could see, but they had rebranded the associated marketing, so what the logo sat within, and it was this big deal. But I think no one probably noticed. Certainly that was the feedback when I shared the article. Oh, really?
I think anybody wants to say, if you put Tropicana rebrand fail into Google, it does pull up the two images. And what they did is they had an orange picture of an orange on the front, and they changed it to a picture of a glass of orange, and it cost them $50 million a year.
Just to check, ML, is weird shit a branding technical term?
Yes, Bob.
Absolutely, yeah. Along with you know, when I'm doing training and talking about plopping things here and zhuzhing it over there.
Yeah. So Kevin, because your original brand was 13 Media.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, one of your historic brands was 13 Media.
Yep.
Why do I keep inviting the awkward people?
Well, you just need to do your research, really, Paul.
Okay, it's a good point.
Can't do that for you. Research is vital for rebranding and stuff.
Yeah, all right, shut up. That's a question. So 13 Media was one persona of you. You're here today as your copywriter, Con. What had you choose to sort of do this sub-brand or this separate brand as opposed to sort of sticking to 13 Media?
Okay, so that's I think probably a good example of approach, and I think maybe I would take a slightly different approach to ML, but that might be a background thing and might be a way kind of the way we came into the industry thing. Designers, I think, which I'm not, and ML is by nature are evolutionary, like your name says. They go, oh, we could move this bit, we could change that, we could build on that, we could develop it. Whereas I think people who have a kind of my sales and marketing background and the media are far more push the plunger and cause an explosion based. So I would, where possible, if it's practical and it works, I would edge towards an instant rebrand rather than an evolution, and go for the bang. And that's one of the reasons why Your Copywriter came about. We originally were called 13 Media Arts.
That's what the ghost in your office thought of that.
Is anything else to fall off the wall or off of you during this broadcast?
Several things have fallen off of me during this broadcast. Some of them have actually gone on to lead productive lives in the corner of the office. We became 13 Media when we no longer were involved in music. It wasn't relevant. Originally, we were based in the arts community, and it wasn't relevant to keep on. So the brand changed and dropped the word arts. We're still officially called that 13 Media Arts Limited, and became 13 Media. What happened was with the Your Copywriter and why that came into being is a good example of the branding thing being everywhere and being part of your business. The change to Your Copywriter was reactive, not proactive. So we went into lockdown, very hard to do videos if you're not allowed to leave your house, which was, at the time was our high value product. So I sat and looked at the thing, and it turned out that over time, I can't remember the exact number, I think it was 60% of the income had actually come from people asking us to write copy, although we didn't particularly push it. So we started to mention it, and what became apparent very quickly from what you quite rightly called your community around you was that people struggled with the concept of, for some reason, with the concept of the copywriting side, which I'd been doing for 20 odd years, and the video side, which I've been doing for 20 odd years, being related. They couldn't put the two together. So the brand of Your Copywriter came simply out of the fact that it was necessary to tell people we did a product that was 60% of our business.
And that's a good answer to Russell's question, is it necessary? And it's the same for whether you're doing an incremental evolutionary change. It's not just doing it just for the sake of it. It's asking yourself, there is the aesthetics point of view. Is it looking out of date? Is it functioning in terms of, is the text readable? you've got the other side of it. Is it all appealing to your target market? Is it clear what you do? Maybe not in the logo as such, but across your branding. And all of those things can be a driver to make that change.
Absolutely. And I think that actually answers Russell's question perfectly, doesn't it? The answer, when I said yes, that was kind of half serious, because yes, it is. You're right on both counts, but Russell, whichever is the most appropriate and the right thing to do. So with the business community rebrand, we had a launch. We had an explosion. We pushed a plunger and it blew up the old brand, and the new one came in its place. And we explained why to the community and told them what we'd done and why we'd done it. And in actual fact, a lot of the rebrand, including the name, was around the discussion of the business community that fed back. And it is literally almost based on the fact that we asked the community in the business group what they wanted, and they came back and said, we want a business community. And one of the interesting things that if I remember right, Paul, was it was very few people mentioned making money out of the reason they were members of the community, was there? It was actually more about the camaraderie, the getting help and the support. So, it's a necessity thing again there. If that was how it was being seen, and I think there was a point where me, you, Mark, and I seem to remember Russell was there at the time as well, but where we went, actually, this business, where the old NN Connect as it was, doesn't do what we all thought it did. So the brand no longer was no longer relevant, and like you said at the time, not another bloody network group. And that was the response, was that it wasn't, and that was what people wanted, and that killed the brand for me at that point. At that point, that brand was dead. And that's kind of what you're saying there, I think, ML, isn't it? There is a point where something is part of your brand is no longer relevant.
And it is having that. It's having that assessment as well. It's deciding what stays, what goes. You're sort of doing that audit process, and you can do the audit of your brand at any point, and you don't necessarily need to take action in the sense of doing a rebrand. It could be that there's a lot of things that are working, but it is the micro copy that's not working. Have you even got a call to action on your social media posts? If someone goes to your website, is it clear what they need to do and what to get out of it? Or is it just a website that exists because someone said you should have a website? So it circles back again to that having some sort of strategy is going to be helpful.
Is it a website that exists because somebody said you have to have a website? I mean, that can actually, I think, apply to all your branding. If you're looking at your branding and going, this exists because somebody said I had to have branding, then you probably didn't do it right. Because that's not what it was for. You can go back
to sort of, kids going to uni. If you're just going to uni because you were told, by your parents, you've got to go to uni and study, you just pick any old degree and you do it mediocrely, and then you might graduate, and then you do absolutely nothing with it.
As indeed many marketing people did this.
This isn't a forum for life therapy in your ML. Stop.
No, I've got something really important to say, but you go first.
No, go on then.
No, I was just going to say, I think what we've said there. The important thing is to be absolutely brutal with your brand. For all that we talk about reaching out to customers and we put all these fancy words, and in the end, we're all really brutal about branding, and we go, if that doesn't work, it goes, it gets cut, gets gone, because you cannot make a bad thing work in your brand. You can't cover it up. If it's not working, it's not working. Get rid of it. Be brutal, be hard, and improve.
I think the express you're looking for is you can't polish a turd.
Yeah.
Well, you can spray a bit of glitter on it.
Yeah, and I can do that with a bit of decent text.
So maybe on that note, we should wrap it up here. So does anybody have any final comments before we do close this catastrophe down?
It wasn't a catastrophe. We were useful. It wasn't a catastrophe. Me and ML did some good. It was just you hanging around.
we said some words.
Yeah. And most of them were in the right order. So just for me, just a word of warning out there. So when I set up NN Connect over a decade ago, I just went online to get a logo. I know, and it's disgusting, isn't it? And it cost me, I don't know, $20-$30. Doesn't really matter what it is. Like, yeah, that, you know, that sort of like works. And it gave you a little bit of opportunity to zhuzh it up a little bit. And so yeah, chose that logo, did the website, got bits and pieces done, went to a local exhibition, walk into it, and there's a pull-up banner with, inverted commas, my logo on it, because the person had done exactly the same thing, and of all the tens of thousands of logos they could have chosen, they happened to choose exactly the same one as me, happened to be in Northamptonshire, and there's my logo, inverted commas, on their banner. So I thought, bugger. And I think I knew the lady that in question. So, you know, you just be careful where you do go and source logos, and just sort of like make sure that, you know, someone else isn't using it elsewhere, particularly if you're using one of these, you know, sort of online sites. So yes, next session we are doing in a week's time is going to be around operations and resources, and we're going to have a look at, do businesses do enough to protect themselves, and whatever that looks like for the conversation that we have. So thanks to you guys for joining me today. We will end the broadcast there. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.